high. Love is felt most when it's genuine.
And good day. Thank you so much for tuning in to the St. Mark Moment. I'm Dr. Alma Jenkins, and on behalf of our pastor, Bishop Alton A. Smith, the Health Ministry of St. Mark Church, and the entire church, we want to welcome you and thank you for tuning in to the St. Mark Moment. As you know, this moment was created to help you through this pandemic. Many people have questions and concerns, and so this is an effort to devote a little bit more time to answering that and helping you with those kinds of questions. Well, let's look at the status of North Carolina today. Unfortunately, we are one of a number of states in these United States where the number of positive coronavirus tests are just amazingly increasing. So these numbers are increasing, and it's not because we're doing more tests, contrary to what you may have heard. There really is a rise in the number of cases. And so we are in a crisis, really. And that requires some tough measures. And the measure that we're faced with right now is that our mayor, is that our governor, Governor Roy Cooper, has very wisely mandated that we all wear masks when we are out and about. Now, I want to say a word about that because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the mask, and it's even become a political football right now, which it should not be. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a health issue. It's not a political issue. And no, it's not tough to walk around without your mask. It's not a good thing. It's not a thing you should be proud of. In fact, when you walk around without your mask on, you're saying some things that I know you don't mean to say. You know, you're saying, forget about me, I might have it, but don't bother me about wearing a mask. We have to treat everybody as if they have the virus. Okay? If you remember that, you will more comfortably wear your mask. Because what if you do have it? You're not wearing a mask. So you are spreading that virus out into the air. Okay? And if you're in a closed environment, you're spreading it to whoever's in that room. You know, you heard about the birthday party that this group of people had, and then at the end of that party, I think about 18 of them had the coronavirus. They have done some studies to show that the younger population is playing a very large part in the uptick in the number of cases. Now that kind of makes sense too, because people get together, lots of young people get together with their friends. They're not thinking about that they may have the virus because they feel great. So you can be asymptomatic and pass the virus on. So young people, when I say young people, the ages in the 20s to the 40s, be real aware of this, okay? And I know you think I'm fine, and you'll go to a doctor's office and maybe don't have your mask. Most doctor's offices now require you to wear a mask, so I'm real happy about that. But I don't know if the businesses will. So let's wear a mask, and certainly I expect every one of God's children, meaning, and I know you say, yeah, we're all, but those of us who are trying to follow God, who are trying to walk in the light, okay? I expect all of you to have a mask on when you're out and about. Set the example. The Bible says we are the salt of the earth. We are the light of the world. So let's show that light. Let's shine by wearing our masks. Now, the other thing I want to encourage you to do is get tested. Now, this Saturday we have testing at the Goldsboro-Raleigh District Assembly, and isn't that a wonderful thing? I believe it's actually on the grounds there. And I know that you could register here at St. Mark. You could call here and register. I'm going tomorrow and get tested. I encourage all of you to go and get tested. Now, I do know that the health department is also putting together some testing sites. They're doing it in places where they feel like those are communities at risk, and so they are trying to get testing sites in those places. What do I mean by that? You know that although communities of color account for 10, 12, 15% of the population or so, but accounting for a much larger percentage of the coronavirus cases. Now, that percentage I gave you is not exactly correct, but I made the point to say that we account for much less than the number of cases that we're getting and the severity of our cases. Now, I don't think there's something particularly wrong with you that's true. That is a socioeconomic problem. Many people of color don't have access to health care, aren't able to get the health care. Many of us are in these essential job positions where we are more prone to get the virus. Everyday blue collar jobs. We can't do that from home. We can't get on the computer and do those jobs. So you're out there more. So there are reasons for that. But you're going to hear about testing in those communities coming up, I believe, from the health department. And when you hear about it and it's offered to you, do it. I want to encourage you to get tested. I'm actually encouraging Wayne County to have it available to everybody in Wayne County so that everyone can get tested. Now, that really gives you a snapshot of the county, and then we can isolate those people who are positive, and then we can contact trace everybody who's been around them. Do you see how that can cut down on your number of cases? Let me give you an example. One person that gets the virus, let's say they give it to 12 other people, and each one of those 12 gives it to 12 other people. What if you isolate that person who was exposed to that person with the virus? Then they don't get a chance to give it to 12 other people, who then don't get a chance to give it to 12 other people. So you've already cut down a large number of would-be cases just by finding out who's positive. You understand? That's how it works. That's how you get your numbers down. So let me encourage you to get tested, okay? And one of the main reasons to get tested is because you can be positive and be totally asymptomatic. In fact, I think that's how a lot of the virus is spreading, because people don't know they have it, but yet they give it to someone else who gets sick when they get it. You see what I'm saying? So I want to encourage you to please go and get tested. And what's the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about? Well, I wanted to encourage you because there are many people who are suffering greatly in this pandemic because they have a fear of being in closed places. Now, there are people who, even though they may not be working, usually they're out and about during the day. They get in their car and they go to the store, they wander around, they're out and about. They go to their friends' houses, they sit around, they talk, they play bridge, whatever they do, or they play whatever they do, golf or whatever. But this has forced us to shelter in place in many instances, or that person that you want to go visit is really not taking visitors. And most people aren't taking visitors right now. I'm not. I don't have people over now, and I don't go to people's homes now. I go to my sisters. I've been doing that. We sort of are, we're a family, so we hang together anyway. But even when I go there, I put on a mask because I'm out to the grocery store. Sometimes I'll go places that I need to go. So we're being very, very, very careful. But there are people who can't really tolerate this very well. Would you please call them if you know them? Call an elderly person to see if they need something from the grocery store. Call even a young person who may be having some trouble with this. You may know somebody who's having a tough time. Now is the time for us to be really kind to one another. People are going to write about this The pandemic of 2019, well, 2020, actually started in 2019, but the pandemic of 2020, people are going to write about it. It actually became a pandemic in 2020. Started first cases in 2019, first case. But the pandemic itself is going to be written about just like the pandemic of 1918 was written about. Now, let me tell you a little bit about that pandemic. We're almost out of time. Let's put this in perspective. The pandemic of 1918, if you got it that morning, by that night, or oftentimes by the next morning, you were dead. It was just that quick. You know, they have written about the symptoms people were having then. The symptoms were very dramatic in some instances. People had, discolored, they were looking real sick. Discoloration of the skin. Some people had bleeding. I mean, it was terrible. And so many people died of it. There's an estimate that over 600,000 people died in this country with the pandemic of 2018. They had 3 waves. We've so far had 1. They had 3 waves, and it lasted for 15 months. 15 months. Okay? They had to shutter the schools, shutter the churches, shutter the theaters, so people weren't going to those places. They had to wear masks. They did know enough about it to wear a mask and to social distance. But they didn't know about antibiotics at that time, didn't have antibiotics for it. They didn't have, of course, it was a virus, so, but they didn't have medicines really for it. And they didn't have a test to test people for it. They went on, the symptoms that they had. So, but they did have things that we have today in terms of masks, social distancing, and washing, the hygiene part. And what they found is when they did that, and they did it early, they could see a difference in the cases, even then. So that tells us that even with the simple things we have now, we can conquer this virus. Let me encourage you to be encouraged. God is still in control. And we'll see you next time on the St. Mark Moment. How was that?